No, you don't. You just flip that one on, please.
Right here?
Yep.
So on, and then when you don't want to talk, just keep it green.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but just, they didn't know. They didn't know
But
that you
they'd
had.
be off now, right?
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. If everyone would stand and join me everyone would stand and join me with the pledge to allegiance. Pledge allegiance. All right. Got some new microphones, we're good to go. Hopefully. So, we have one add-on resolution for Code of Ethics for the town of Shelby. Public forum, agenda items only. The highway report. Dale?
Excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
you skipped the public comment.
Public comments are at the end.
No, they're at the beginning and then at the end. You said public comments if they're about agenda items.
That's at the end. Every board meeting.
It says that, right? Public forum regarding agenda items.
Agenda items.
Yes, it's just about what's on the agenda.
Yes.
Right,
My
but,
first comment is about what's on the agenda.
oh, okay,
My other comment I'll save till the end.
okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she can comment
Yeah.
So,
Name and press.
it's on.
Okay.
Just talk into it, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Jones. You guys know me, most of you. Or have spoken to you or emailed. In any case, the resolution you just added regarding the Code of Ethics was actually one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, that it was signed in 2019, the Section 6 Employee Conduct Code of Ethics, and I wanted to bring up Article 18 of the General Municipal Law about conflict of interest with elected officials and representation before one's own agency, that he or she shall not receive or enter into any agreement for compensation or services rendered in relation to any matter and before any agency in which she's an officer, member, employee, or any municipal agency, or has the power to appoint. And then Part E, disclosure of interest, that a member of the town board or any officer or employee, paid or unpaid, who participates in the discussion or gives official opinion on any legislation before the town board shall publicly disclose on the record the nature and extent of any direct or indirect financial or other private interest she or he has in such legislation. And I wanted to ask about a resolution that some of you, but not all of you, were involved in 2020, Resolution 8520, granting municipal consent to the formation of a sewage works corporation. It looks like the members signing were Jeff Smith, William Bacon, Stephen Seitz, John Pratt, Ryan Wilkins, and was duly adopted. And I went to the Sewer Works Corporation board meeting last week in Genesee County in Batavia, and the director of the agency there, Mr. Massey, told me that Jeff Smith had financial interest and that it was he said it was Smith property where the sewage pipe was going to be dumped into the creek. And it seems to me that according to the Employee Conduct Code of Ethics, he should not have entered into that agreement or led members of this board to do so without informing you of any, interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect. And if it is Smith property family member, I would see that as indirect. So that was my first concern, which you just mentioned. You added a resolution about ethics, which is why I bring that up now. The other thing that I have is on the agenda for tonight, you say that you're going to have a resolution to approve the July minutes. The supervisor's report is not online and hasn't been. In fact, none of the reports of any kind have been online that I've been able to find, any written reports. So I don't see how the board can vote to approve the supervisor's report if there is no written report for the public to see. And perhaps it should be tabled, even though it's just, there is or is not. Is it? After the meeting, but that's not the same as being. Well, and that's completely understandable, except the transparency issue. What this board used to do is have something called work sessions. I wrote a really long letter to the editor about how much I loved work sessions. Maybe that was a mistake, because it was all about how great it was to be able to see exactly what the town board is going to be discussing so that we know as members of the public, when should we go to a meeting? I like to know what it is you're going to talk about, and the only thing ever posted is actually the clerk's report. Every month, faithfully, 2 weeks, before a meeting, I can read her report. But the other reports, though they are provided in full at the meeting, we can't read them ahead of time. And some meetings we can, some we can't. There's the highway report, and there's the code enforcement report. It's, again, transparency issue is if you had a work session meeting where the public had an idea what was on the agenda, like tonight, it says on that agenda right there, you can only talk if it's about what you're talking about. But how are we to know what you're talking about based on that right there? It just says approved report from July, which we don't have a copy of, and then it's an outline of all the different people who are about to speak. So when a lot of us have questions, that's a concern.
So the public forum regarding agenda items only is literally what's on the agenda. Right. Is literally just the list of things on the agenda. It's
Right.
not you get to comment about those things at that point in time. It's like if there isn't a highway report and you want, well, where's the highway report? That's what you can. What
Why
you're
would it
doing
be
now is
beforehand?
beyond what public comments on the agenda is. What you're doing now is public comments that would be allowed at the end of the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, you can comment on anything you want.
Oh, no, I want to comment on things that you might vote on. That's the whole point of talking prior to the meeting. And then if I know, for instance, you're going to talk about the Code of Ethics tonight, and you have a resolution that you're going to vote on, then I want to remind the board they already have a Code of Ethics. And by the way, there's really important stuff in there, and it shouldn't be a rubber stamp. So
Right. They're going to pass a resolution introducing a local law for a new code of ethics.
why would they pass that before showing the public what it is?
Because they have to introduce the law before they can show the public the law. They have
That's
to
not what you-
introduce, they have to pass a resolution saying we're going to introduce this local law. And once they pass that resolution saying we're introducing this local law, that local law then goes to the public. And this resolution will also schedule a public hearing on that local law. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to review the local law and attend a public hearing on that local law at the next board meeting.
So you're saying the resolution is worded that the town is planning to introduce a new code of ethics?
Yes.
Something
Yes, the resolution says they're introducing a local law
to adopt?
to adopt a code of ethics.
Does that presume that they agree with it?
I don't know what it presumes or doesn't presume, but they're required to have a code of ethics.
Uh-huh. They already
And
have a code of ethics.
it wasn't as complete as I wanted it to be.
Okay. my point is that an agenda that looks like that just lists treasurer's report, code enforcement officer's report, highway officer's report, this is problematic to the public when you give us an outline that's blank. If we don't know what it is the board might vote on, we have no power to influence how they might vote. After the fact could be after you have voted. I'm sorry, Mrs. Bennett, did you have a?
Fine with the supervisor that they always list their resolutions, and the resolutions are the items that they're voting on.
But it doesn't have the text with it other than the name of it. That's my point. Anyway, I'll talk further at the end. But I guess my main thing there being transparency right now is a major problem of people knowing what is happening and when. And I'm not putting blame on this board for that. I'm saying that this is something that I hope you insist on as important to you. Because I know that many of you have spoken about how you value transparency. And so do we. So, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Anyone else? All right, highway report, Dale Root.
Good evening. It's been quite a month here. Starting out with helping out Ridgeway and Barry on a few projects, building a few headstone foundations, picking up a few dead deer, conducted many stakeouts, a few burials, repaired the fence, and moved the dumpster. Early one morning, awoke to a water main break on Freeman Road just past Shelby Basin. An emergency stakeout was called in along with the crew. Carlton and crew were there with the vac truck, plus the town of Barry and their vac trailer on standby and crew. Made quick work of it. 2.5 hours once we dropped the bucket in, it was done. An outstanding job to all that helped. A special shout out to Doug Fuller for noticing it early in the morning. Shoulders were installed on Martin Road, plus a few areas of concern on the west side of Waterworks Road. Again, other towns came to help. Thank you to Yates and Ridgeway. Took a morning and sent the grader up to Bell Road, cut shoulders, graded smooth, another task off the list. I'm very happy to report tonight that in the last week we were able to grader pay, Johnson Road, Hoffman Road, Dunlop, the east side of Dunlop Road, the east side, Southwoods Road, Tibbetts, Oak Orchard Ridge, part of Sour Springs, and finally Barber Road. A special thanks to the grader operator Tom Bentley from the town of Barry for doing a great job. His many years of experience was helpful. Not to leave out Gary and Bud, Barry employees, for their many miles of walking behind a truck laying product down in front of the grader. Frank for driving a Barry truck. Also assisting Shelby were 2 trucks from Clarendon, Pete and Jamie, and Danny on the roller. The county sent a truck with Andy driving, plus Steve working with the grader raking product, plus the Shelby MEOs. This was a great effort and a true testament of shared services. We were able to get over 7.5 miles of needed road repair. I couldn't be happier. Shelby is grateful for these relationships. A special thanks to Barry Stone and Matt Powell, the plant operator. With 7.5 miles of blacktop and 2 miles of dirt roads repaired, Shelby has had a banner year. We are getting close to the goal line of the 5-year plan. Thank you, Shelby residents, for your support. A friendly wave, a thumbs up as you come through the work zone. It lifts the men's spirits. Thanks. Finally, the men so enjoy their early morning workout stacking e-waste. Thank you.
Assessor report, Trish is not here tonight. She's Got some personal stuff going on with her father. Do we have anyone, no planning board? Oh. Yeah. What's it? No, no planning board report, or zoning report, or code enforcement report. Okay. Resolution to approve the July 11th, 2023 Town Board meeting minutes.
So move.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Resolution to approve the clerk's report for July.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? It's approved. Again, July, no supervisor's report. It's still being balanced out. It's not automatic. It has to be done manually. That's why it's not done on time. Resolution to approve to pay claims against the town.
So move.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Approved. Then to one add-on resolution. The resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Shelby. Whereas Board Member Scott Wangowitz has introduced for consideration local law number one of 2023 entitled "A Local Law Establishing the Code of Ethics of the Town of Shelby," the local law. And whereas the purpose of the proposed local law is to establish standards of conduct expected of officers and employees of the Town of Shelby, the town, and to establish a process for permitting of certain period. Okay. Whereas the Town Board of Trustees, the town, desires to comply with Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, seeker, and its implementing regulations set forth 6 NYCRR Part 617 with respect to the proposed local law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby classifies the proposed local law as a Type 2 action under seeker, and be it further resolved that the Town Board will hold a public hearing on September, was that 8th, Miranda? When's 12th, the next board meeting? September 12th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. So the next board meeting, half an hour early. To hear all persons' interest in the above referenced local law and to consider the adoption of such local law. And be it further resolved that the town clerk shall cause notice of such public hearing to be published in the official town newspaper in accordance with all local requirements. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion that we accept this and go on from here.
Is there any discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Ed?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
I vote yes. Jeff?
Yes.
And John is absent. That's approved. That goes to Darlene. Okay. So, September 12th, next board meeting, half an hour early, 6:30, is when we'll have the public hearing for that, prior to the board meeting. Okay, I'll open up board comments. Ed, you have anything?
No.
Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the highway superintendent, I see you were going back around and remowing the first passes of the roads. Are you gonna continue doing that, or, are you all done mowing?
No, he'll continue mowing, all through the summer. He'll be coming across 63 maybe next week. I have an MEO out for a couple of days for personal reasons, and I'm a little short, and he's driving truck for the county for a couple of days.
Okay, thanks, Dale. I just happened to notice, some of the roads were getting redone and they were looking really good, so I just wanted to thank you on that, so.
Mr. Schiffer, comments? I do not have any comments. I will open it up for public comments, agenda items, and there'll be a 3-minute time limit.
I just have Linda Lehman, I just have two questions. I too was wondering about the supervisor's report, so I understand that there's some type of a software issue, but the previous reports, are they available through either the clerk or the bookkeeper if we wanted to see what those reports were? You can? Okay. Second question is, you must be coming up on budget season shortly. Will those be public meetings? And will we be able to comment or ask questions at those, or are they're not public?
We come up with the budget, then it's distributed to the board, then we have a public meeting on it, and you guys.
So at some point prior to it being
Yeah,
approved?
yeah,
it's-
before it
okay.
gets approved, yes, the
Okay,
public gets to see it,
thank you.
yes. Thank you, Linda. Yes, ma'am?
Sherry Wheatley. I just wanted to check on the outhouse that was approved in May that you were gonna sell me for $1.
Draft up that release.
Okay.
I'll get to it this week.
Okay, that'd be great.
yeah,
It just
my-
needs a lot of work, so I wanna get
Yep,
started before it snows out.
That's my,
Okay.
I'll get to that.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Your name again, Karen, okay?
Yes.
Thanks.
Karen Jones. I emailed all the board members, but I heard back from at least 5 emails bounced back as not able to be received and software glitches and things like that. That to me is another transparency issue. I don't know, Eddie or Steve, if you got my email, part of it. And that's what happened to the supervisor. I would like to ask the questions to the full board, so they're in the record. A lot of us are wondering about this wastewater pipeline that for us has come out of nowhere and yet has apparently been in the works a long time, but it keeps changing. That it was a lot of our understanding that the wastewater pipeline was supposed to go to the Medina sewage treatment plant, and then that had expired. But then in 2020, this new agreement was signed with Shelby. In any case, here are my questions. Number one, is my husband and I, our family, are we correct in assuming that the pipe is scheduled to go through our yard on Route 63? Where exactly is the discharge point for the treated wastewater? What Mr. Massey told me is that it was Mr. Smith's property and that 6 million gallons of effluent water is going to be discharged directly into Oak Orchard Creek. This is not what people in this community understood was going to happen daily, and that level of discharge has an extremely adverse effect. How exactly did the signing of the resolution approving the formation come about, especially how was Mr. Smith able to bring that resolution to the board and sign it himself if it's on his property? Where are the plans and diagrams that were given to the board at that time? And are they the same diagrams and plans that are now in the works? Or did some of the board members here sign something different in 2020 than what is being proposed right now, and this board has not been able to vote on it? Has the zoning board been given these documents? Was it ever taken to our code enforcement officer? Which person or agency determined that the resolution superseded the town's own wildlife overlay district law? And if so, what was their reasoning? Was the water supervisor in Medina consulted about the plan? And was he allowed or encouraged in his official capacity to share his knowledge and input with this board regarding the impact of that much daily water being discharged? Was there any discussion with the village of Medina regarding the project and how it might impact future prospective businesses hoping to utilize Medina's plant? Was the highway superintendent consulted regarding the impact of the pipeline on the road and the cost to Shelby of the construction or the destruction of that road? Or are we all going to bear the cost of Genesee's, behemoth? What if there's a break on the line anywhere on Route 63? Will both Orleans and Genesee say it's a state highway and say it's not their responsibility? Considering the amount of people that travel on 63, I think it's an important question. The highway superintendent should be involved. According to the updated Western Comprehensive Plan, which Shelby signed in 2019, much of Shelby, including where the pipeline is planned, is in a designated flood zone. I think since 2019, the water has actually risen in the refuge and in Oak Orchard Creek as we know it. We've seen the flooding change since 2019, and it's gone up. And so Stamp Sewer Works arguing the flooding will not be an issue when our maps clearly say otherwise. I think that especially the newest members of this board need to be part of this process and need to be allowed to review those plans, and the existing members that were here all along, I think there's also deception that they have faced, that what's being planned now is not what they agreed to. But again, I'm just going on what I can kind of stitch together. There are so many layers to this of, well, when did this even start? And people heard Stamp, and a lot of us, me included, we're all for it. We want jobs. But it looks now like Genesee County is the one reaping the benefit. Orleans, what are we getting? We're getting the discharge directly into our creek. We're getting the damage to our roads. We're not getting a dime. The Smith family is. Perhaps others that I don't know about, because again, these things that are signed, everything is so secretive. And I know that you too value the role of the board in protecting citizens. Thank you for your time.
So I can tell you what I know and what I found. So the resolution that was approved in September of 2020 was a resolution required pursuant to the New York State Transportation Corporation Law. And what Genesee County EDC was doing was forming a sewage treatment works transportation corporation under the Transportation Corporation Law. And when you do that, you need consent from the health departments and then consent from the municipalities. So prior to, and that's a ministerial administrative consent. There's nothing other than saying, sure, create your transportation corporation. Before the town of Shelby Town Board at that time passed that resolution, the Genesee County Health Department passed a resolution consenting to the formation of the corporation, and so did the Orleans County Health Department passed a resolution consenting to the formation of that corporation. In 2020, prior to, I have copies, hold on. I don't know if there's a date on it. September 18th, 2020. It was signed by Paul Pettit on behalf of the Orleans County. He's with the Orleans County Public Health Director. So that was the September 2020 resolution. What then happened after that was Shelby was then asked to pass a resolution in 2021. I believe it was ultimately passed in March of 2021, consenting to the construction of the line.
Isn't that where the issue with Mr. Smith is? Because it's his property? It was not my understanding it was his property at the time. It's also my understanding that there was no real, that was also a ministerial administrative approval. The town had no authority under any law or case law or opinion or anything anywhere that I could find that would have allowed them to say no. Yates fought Article 10 very successfully.
Article 10 is different.
I'm just saying that this word administrative, like their hands are tied. Other communities have said no.
Article 10 is different. Article 10 has a whole process to go through with the Public Service Commission. This is approval required on the Transportation Corporation law. I looked at it, I read it, there was really no basis. And the other things to keep in mind is, at the time, the town was told that this was going to be strictly under the state highway, and that as long as they got their easement and approvals from the DOT to run it under the state highway, the town had no basis for any other approvals. There was no planning approval for the town to give. There was no zoning approval for the town to give. There was no water approval for the town of Shelby to give with respect to this project. The water discharge approval came from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And it's also my understanding that that's why it discharges downstream from the Indian reservation, because they didn't want it discharging into that creek upstream of the nation's lands. It had to be downstream. And that's what led to them coming up with the discharge point in the town of Shelby and running the line down the state highway. That was the town's understanding at the time. That's what they were told.
Did the town board members even get to see these plans? Or did you just tell them they had to sign it?
I didn't tell them anything in terms of that they had to sign it. I advised them on what, actually I advised Bethany at the time. It was the former town attorney who asked for my opinion. And my opinion was that there was an administrative approval and there was really no basis for the town to say no. If the town said no, they risked a lawsuit, which they would have to pay to defend.
It just seems to me that the town didn't even get to weigh in on this. It doesn't make any sense. The pipe was going to be under the road, so nobody had to say.
It's the DOT, it's the state DOT, it's a state road, so it's the state DOT that ultimately decides whether to allow that pipe to be placed under its highway or not. The town also has no liability with respect to the pipe or the plant. It's all on the sewage treatment works or on the town of Alabama.
I just don't understand how Genesee County is trying to have eminent domain in Orleans County on property that belongs in Orleans County, this eminent domain question. Like, it doesn't make any sense. We don't live in Genesee County.
So are you saying there was no way that Shelby or anybody could stop that water from being put into Oak Orchard Creek in the town of Shelby?
They would have had to have objected to the issuance of the Speedies permit by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
Did you even give them an opportunity to look at the Speedies permit? Did the town board members even get to examine any of it?
The DEC sent it to the town. I don't know what happened to it. I was not the town attorney at the time. Yeah, I don't know anything else other than what I said. Oh, right.
Anyone else? Alrighty then, can we get motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.